Of Quentin Tarantino's movies, Pulp Fiction is arguably one of the director's best, yet it continues to be a bit mysterious for audiences as the year in which it takes place isn't entirely clear. Released in 1994, Pulp Fiction has become a mainstay of pop culture, best known for Uma Thurman's iconic dance scene, John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson's funny banter, and the timeless question, what's in Pulp Fiction's briefcase? Though fans have analyzed every aspect of the movie, its time period isn't so obvious. Several of Quentin Tarantino's movies are tied to definite time periods. For example, Inglourious Bastard takes place specifically in 1941, during the first year of Nazi occupation in France. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is set in 1969 to reflect the Summer of Love in which Charles Manson and his followers murdered Sharon Tate. However, not all of Tarantino's movies have such a strong sense of time. Pulp Fiction, for example, seems to bend time more than stick to it. More specifically, it blends elements of the modern era with nostalgic glimpses of the past. Pulp Fiction is set in the 1990s, when the movie was released. Pulp Fiction premiered in 1994. Jules and Vincent standing in t-shirts in Pulp Fiction. Although Pulp Fiction often feels as though it is set in a specific historical era, one at a distance from modern times, the movie actually takes place in the present day, or at least, the present day of the movie's release. Pulp Fiction came out in 1994, and the events of the movie are set in or around that same year. Notably, Tarantino has never confirmed any specific year or date. There may not be any Easter eggs within the film hinting at a specific year, but the general surroundings, including technology, hint that it's the 1990s. Pulp Fiction's exact date is not the only strange element of time related to the movie, however. The non-linear plot of Pulp Fiction is not in chronological order but is all scrambled up, forcing audiences to put the scattered scenes together like a puzzle. By telling the story out of order, Pulp Fiction also adds to the ambiguity of its era for viewers. Ultimately, this is what makes Pulp Fiction great. It forces audiences to think and keeps them on their toes. Why Pulp Fiction feels like it's set decades earlier. Pulp Fiction is full of 1950s references. If Pulp Fiction is set in the time period it was released in, the 1990s, then there should be no doubt about what period in which the movie is set. It should simply appear to be the present day. Still, the confusion is understandable. Pulp Fiction, despite being set in the 1990s, is full of references to the 1950s. Not only does the dialogue denote certain pop culture points of the 1950s, but the visuals are also reminiscent of a time 40 years before the movie is set, with Tarantino blending the past and present. There are countless ways Pulp Fiction references the 1950s, but one of the most obvious is the diner, Jack Rabbit Slim's, which Mia and Vincent visit together in the movie. The restaurant's tables are built inside classic pastel-colored 1950s cars, and the iconic burgers and milkshakes menu is reminiscent of the soda shops and diners of the 1950s. Furthermore, the diner is staffed by actors portraying 1950s icons, including James Dean wearing his memorable red jacket, and Marilyn Monroe with her curly blonde hair. Mia and Vincent's participation in the twist contest is the cherry on top of the 1950s ambience. Tarantino leaves Pulp Fiction's exact year ambiguous. Pulp Fiction takes place in no specific year. Quentin Tarantino as Jimmy Dimmock in Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction may be set in the 1990s with various 1950s references, but in the end, there is no exact year that the movie can be linked to. Quentin Tarantino has never confirmed a specific year for the movie, and there are no mentions of certain historical events or products to give audiences a sense of the year. In this way, Pulp Fiction presents itself as taking place in an ambiguous time, perhaps outside of time. This would parallel the ways in which Tarantino inserts his own brands into the movie. To him, everything is fiction.